the way that I am, whether it's playing music or the band, any milestone, you want to take the time to give yourself the respect of like, hey, you did this, like, congrats to you for taking the time and putting yourself into it. But almost as quick as you can give yourself the credit for that, you're already looking down the line of what that next thing is. And that feeling might not be for everybody. Like, some people really crave the feeling of like arriving, and I crave the feeling of looking out and seeing what the next thing is.
Like coming home from this tour being like, things are really good right now. Like, we have all this steam and all this momentum. This is probably the best time to like assess what we aren't doing well, because there is so much good happening right now. Like, to look at tour and say, in what ways can we make the next tour better, with the full knowledge that we felt like we crushed this tour. And it's like, so when the show is good, it's almost the best time to be like, well, I could have also done this, that, and the other thing. Doesn't take away from the fact that this was a great show.
So here we are on the Weird Music Podcast. We got Dani and Jake from Eggy. Gonna have Kel joining us from Live for Live Music for a part 2. So anyone out there listening, odds are you know about Eggy. One of the best improvisational groups I've seen. Like, these guys just get completely like zonked out on stage and they rip it. Love to see it. Glad to have these guys on the podcast. So to start off, we're gonna keep this hot right from the get-go. Music that's not scripted, improvisational music. How come that's what you guys decided to orient your group around?
Well, I think a lot of that comes from some of our initial loves of music. Some of the first bands that we really bonded over as the 4 of us were groups like Fish, The Grateful Dead, and our scene at large. Early on, hanging out with Jake and Mike back in Connecticut before Alex was in the fold. We had this festival in Connecticut, Gathering of the Vibes, and that brought so much of this jam style music right to basically our backyards. And we would go out every summer and catch as many, bands there as we could. And every year there'd always be some Grateful Dead offshoot, like a Phil and Friends or Further, or String Cheese doing, tribute to Old and In the Way. So much of that tradition was already instilled in us, just like in our formative years, that having a band, we knew we wanted to be a band that like wrote amazing songs and then saw how far we could try and stretch them.
When we perform live, that's just like a whole new way that we can kind of communicate with one another and live inside the moment and push ourselves to kind of find what those natural sensibilities that we have, like what comes out just from listening to one another and letting go what you thought might happen. Sometimes you'll perform something in some song, and then the next time you play that song, even if you like those moments that happened in the last kind of set of improvised, moments, kind of have to be willing to drop that and be present and come up with something new. And it's just like Dani said, it's just that type of music has made such an impression on us that a lot of times when we are writing songs, we kind of do that with our own sort of feelings in mind. But when we're improvising, that has always felt to me like the moment that you really connect with the audience. And when you're seeing live music, it's obviously the band and the audience. So to try and find that way to communicate with the audience in ways that have impacted us is like a huge force for that.
Yeah, you mentioned like getting present to the moment before and as you're playing. And how would you describe the way you really have to approach those sections that are unstructured?
Well, I'll start with, it's almost a bit of an anecdotal example. The first time that I ever quote unquote jammed was with Jake in his basement with his dad. And I remember his dad being like, "What do you mean you've never jammed before?" I was like, "I don't know what that means. Like, what are you supposed to do?" He goes, "Just play anything. Just play whatever it feels right. Like, and sometimes those jams we had in your basement like years ago, they ended up us going, hey, hi, ho. But we're, just riffing and having a blast. And that was like the level of like, musical communication improvised that, either the three of us could agree upon or just what was feeling really fun and right at the time. But I think that same kind of notion stays true. It's really like you honestly could play whatever, just so long as that's like what you're communicating. And the awesome thing about playing with these guys is that so long as I'm down to go there, I'm guarantee someone else will pick up the baton with me and we'll just go there together. In my eyes, like a true improv is, it's like whether all you've got is, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to throw some shit at the wall and see what sticks, or you have, 10 more years experience under your belt and a bit of a rapport and conversational tools you can have while improvising with guys you've been playing with for a long time. But it really just comes down to, listening and embracing whatever's happening.
Listening back to your own music and music of the people who you love to listen to the most, how do you determine quality? Jams, of songs, of your own music, of your own jams?
I really just think like somebody's ability to translate their honest feelings is how I kind of determine quality. Being in an improvisational band, we obviously try and channel a lot of different influences, and you got to be open-minded with a lot of music, but I don't necessarily think that the music that you always relate to the most is like a fair way to determine quality. I think the best way that I've been able to determine that is just, is this person being genuine, and does it feel like it's true to their voice and what they're trying to communicate? And if I can pick up on that, then regardless how I feel about it, as far as if it's something I'll listen to again or not, it's you delivered a quality performance, and we have to kind of be that same way. We're on Nugs now, which is an amazing opportunity, and it's so great to have our music reach a wider audience through that platform. And a lot of that is letting go of perfection. Improvising, you're going to hopefully end up in territories that you don't know what the outcome is going to be, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, and I think that's what makes it exciting. Whereas maybe before, quality is like in how close you got to that vision of perfection. Now it's kind of like, did we play true to ourselves, and did we go for something with an honest approach and attempt, and whether we landed or not, I think that there's a quality, level of quality in just the approach, and you can't always judge the outcome in such a critical way, but more so the intent behind it.
Yeah, I was about to say the last thing you said there was the first word that came to my head, which was intent. I mean, I feel like we've all seen like some really great performances from some people that you might not consider like the best musician or the best trained, but man, did they not fucking sell you on that feeling that they were trying to convey? Like whether it's, a subway street performer or someone who's, just picked up music recently and writes songs from a limited perspective of musical knowledge, but uses that to convey a certain feeling. I think that's what it's all about.
So I'd love to hear you guys answer like how you think different aspects of improvising, of songwriting, of playing, of being a musician translate to life principles and just being a person and a good person.
Well, for one, everybody in the band, we all live together. So we, for better or for worse, have had a difficult time separating life and the band. And, anytime something goes on in life, we always find this way to kind of bring it back to how that might impact the way that you are as a band member, or the other way around. And there's so many lessons I think that one you get just from working with people, improvising is kind of a mix between having your own voice and being accepting of others, and having your own vision and knowing that somebody might be seeing something differently, and kind of taking that path together, and being able to decide on something with one another and come to an agreement regardless of what you thought was going to happen. And I think that, you know, a lot of that is life, is kind of having to come together and being able to be accepting of everyone's own experience.
Yeah, and just you know, to focus in on improvised music and in what kind of lessons that pertains to life. I think one of the key things that we've, and especially I feel like I've dealt with more specifically, is confidence. Having the confidence when you are actually when you're trying to get to a place. We have shows so many times to go, man, I had no idea what the fuck was going on right there, but it was sick. But like, to have the confidence in the moment that, yeah, I actually don't know what I'm doing, like exactly, specifically, couldn't explain to you. Like, I don't remember how we got here, but I'm here. Having the confidence to say, if I stick with it, though, I'm going to ride it out and we're going to get to the other side of it. If I stick with this, though, you know, I'm going to see this to the other side. Or, you know, hey, you made a statement. You got to stick with it because you don't know where it's going yet, but clearly you made that for a reason, and like, trust yourself. And I think so much of that, when we're like, you know, we're small business owners, a lot of what we do is in-house. So much of that is just like being confident in knowing, like, hey, like, there's a reason why, you know, you're up late doing this mixing or this editing, or there's a reason why you're waking up every single morning trying to come up with the bridge to this song, is because you're confident in it. And those sorts of lessons are inherent in jams. We want to throw that caution to the wind because have played enough together and have the confidence in one another that we'll see it through.
What would you guys say are some of your own personal favorite Eggy lyrics?
I always liked, with a little patience, a conversation, life becomes the dream, so just breathe. In the same song, don't be afraid to ask for things you want, impossible they may seem. And then it goes into, with a little patience, a conversation, life becomes a dream. Like Dani is saying, where it's, you can know what you'd like and be confident in the vision that you'd like to see for yourself, but how it comes to pass might not be the most clear thing. So don't be afraid to ask those things of the universe, but be patient with, you know, how it all unfolds.
What other Eggy lyrics?
I love
because if you weren't gonna say it, I was gonna say it.
You can say it.
Is it about a little old tale of a man that we we might have written just the other day? Yeah, okay. that was gonna be one of mine. So I see we're both thinking about it. So we were in Iowa, playing in Iowa just last week, passing through the beautiful corn fields of Iowa. And we spent a lot of time in the van, and it's actually become a bit of a rehearsal space for us when we were on this run. So we got to practice a lot of songs in the van. And in this case, we wrote a song in the van on our way to and from Iowa, which we performed in the second night of Milwaukee. And the song is about, it's written from the perspective of a British band that came to the United States for the first time, and they're playing in Iowa for the very first time. Totally thrown, culture shock. And they decided that they're going to write a song about a corn man, a man who works the cornfields. And they dubbed this man Tom Cornwalker. And so we were writing this song. And just to be silly, we were singing it with British accents. We're like, all right, let's try it without the British accent.
Was
like,
no
this
good.
Sucks. So the song is always about Tom and how he spends time in the cornfield.
All right.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite lyric?
My favorite lyric?
There's a lot. If I picked a lyric from the last stanza, I feel like you'd lose the context about why it's so great. A little acapella.
Yeah, let's do it.
Tom spends his time in the cornfields, surveying the land on his four-wheel. He tends to the crops so freely, shucking his corn quickly and cleanly. He learned from his old man, born and raised on Iowa's lands, destined for life as a stalker, and to carry the name Tom Cornwalker. Tom in the cornfields. Tom and Shireen had a dream to raise up the very own corn as supreme. He would tend to the fields as his own, to one day sit on the cornfield thrones. But as little Tom grew older, it seems he had a corn chip on his shoulder, afraid of the man he'd become if he was only known as the corn man's son. Little Tom in the cornfields. Ready? Tom and LT talked for days, accepting their roles together had changed. It wasn't easy at first, giving up a vision decided at birth. So Tom took his son by the hand. They walked together across their land, out on a quest for joy, just as they did when he was a boy. Tom and little Tom in the cornfields.
And now for the refrain. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Tom is spending time in the cornfields. Little Tom is spending little time in the cornfields. Tom and little Tom are spending time in the cornfields. Yeah.
So
it's hard to pick a line for us.
my favorite line of that. So the whole song, there's Tom. He's the corn man. He's the son of a corn man. And then he has his own son, little Tom. Little Tom, son of corn man Tom, also presumably son of another Tom.
And him and his wife Shireen had a dream.
But little Tom doesn't want the corn life. So I think my favorite line is Tom and LT, little Tom. Tom and LT talked for days, accepting their roles together had changed. It wasn't easy at first. Giving up a vision decided at birth.
It's great.
Written in like Iowa, like a week ago. And like we played it second night in Milwaukee. The best is like at the end of the show, someone just screams, "Cornfield Fox." We like them serious.
We like them serious. We like them silly.
Yeah.
You know, however it comes out.
Yeah. And we have a lyrical partner as well. His name's Pat Amaranti. He just moved back to Connecticut, and we're really grateful for that. And he's written some of the most amazing lyrics that, I mean, we both have written lyrics, but, you know, Pat is more of a philosophical guy. He really knows how to like turn some pretty deep concepts into lyrics. And some of my favorite songs have his lyrics, songs like Leatherback and Apology, that like they just strike me every time. And the wordplay that he's able to employ just is the next level for me.
Yeah, we're in the cornfields, and
we're in the cornfields.
He's somewhere greater. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, because the first one that came to my mind with that question, I jumped to Apology immediately. It's that second stanza. I'm sorry for speaking, but I'm not sorry for my voice. I'd be innocent and silent if I could entertain the choice. Virtues vocalized are nothing if your actions at odds. You can't call yourself religious only when you need a God. It's like a whole song that he wrote based off of Plato's Apology. Alex sings it. It's just so profound to me and so smart.
I want to rope this back to what you were saying before about honesty and sincerity. If you were advising an up and coming musician, like how would you say to get that part of it right?
In that case, I guess I like hearken to this like Miles Davis quote that I'm going to butcher. It's like you spend like your whole life trying to sound like everybody else so you can ultimately sound like yourself. Like sounding like yourself is the hardest thing to do. See, it's easy to like learn other people's lines and learn other people's songs, but trying to find your voice and maximizing that, it's like so much of life is like finding the thing that you do best and trying to maximize that, you know, towards like making a living out of it, you know. And it's like in our case, we think about our band as like, it's like, you know, it's got an overarching brand, it's got all these different elements to it, but really what it comes down to is like our voice, and that's the thing that we can push out into the world. And so if I had any advice to like a younger musician or any artist that's trying to find their way, it's just to find what your voice is and find the thing that you do best, not necessarily even better than anyone, just the thing that you do best, and push that as hard as you can. And we see it all the time. It's like, I can look around and honestly be like, well, I don't know if I'm the greatest keyboard player in the scene, in music in general. It's like, so, but what is the thing that only I can do? And in a large part, I always answer whether it's just being me out there. You know, it's about giving good energy. It's about, you know, how I'm able to, you know, interact with my bandmates in a way that, you know, we don't know if I'm the best at it. I'm just the one that gets to do it all the time. So I'm just going to embrace that and be the best that I can be at that.
Have psychedelics influenced Eggy at all?
Less from a consuming and performing perspective, and more from a consuming and then having like my mind just like rocked. I mean, we always like harken back to like, you know, insert Fish show we saw when we were like 21 or 20 or 19 or whatever, you know, coming back to like our campsite, our hotel room. A lot of those shows were me, Jake, and Mike, and, you know, whoever we were hanging with at the time, and just like being, you know, like on acid through a Fish concert and watching and experiencing that wave from the first notes of the first set to when the lights come on and you're not in the same place you were when it began, but you're like, everything is invested in this experience now. And then the lights drop, and knowing how that made you feel when the lights went down and you didn't know what was about to happen, you know, and also like getting excited for the possibility of being on the other side of that, where you get to drop the lights on people, and, you know, and then to taking that, you know, second set ride where the band is improvising, and, you know, in a lot of ways, like this, you've probably had similar moments, Jake, where you're having the best time, and then all of a sudden you're like, am I fucking up? You know, and you think about life and you're like, and a lot of times, like, the only conclusion really after that is like, I'm not fucking up. I just know that I like want to be doing that, and I don't know how to like really do it yet. And like, then we'd come back after the show, you know, and it's an hour later and we're all sitting in the campsite in the tent. We're going like, looking at each other like, yo, this is what we're doing. Like, this is what we're meant to be doing. And like we go back to those, like, those conversations that I wish we were able to somehow like actually watch, but I know how they felt at the time, where it's like, they were just some of the most like profound, like, musical experiences too, where it's like, we just knew that was what we wanted to do.
You mentioned like recently in this podcast, Eggy as a brand. So jumping out of the acid school bus here for a second, marketing advice for up and coming bands. Let's say it's a band starting out. How do we get found?
You know, right now, the way that kind of the internet works and all this sort of stuff, it's just making yourself available to people to see what you have going on. And I mean, it's something that we work through all the time. We're just trying to not even worry about exactly what you're presenting all the time, but we kind of just say, let's just try and win the day, you know, trying to develop something bigger than ourselves, and the vision that we have for what we do. I think a lot of it is, you know, making your music and your art and all that stuff available to people, but not shying away from making just your personality available to people. And you know, it's helpful to have a band of 4 best friends. It just allows people to know you in a better way and become a little bit more involved in your story. You know, the only way that things are going to get better, especially if what you're doing is trying to have people connect with your music and stuff, is by putting it out there and allowing other people to decide. And if you believe in what you're doing, give other people the opportunity to respond to that. Thinking even about the band starting and moving in together, and we used to do a lot of videos from our living room, and we would just use cell phone audio and cell phone video, and people would respond to that. People would be like, I love the living room sessions. Oh, this is such a cool thing. And then we start plugging in the interface, and now we're using, a slightly better phone than the one that we had before. And now we're using cameras that GoPros, and now we're using cameras. And so, I remember even personally, I was putting out some like pedal steel video or something, and somebody reached out to me being like, what camera are you using? Like all this stuff. Like, I've been hesitant to put anything out because it's not great quality. And it's like, well, one, look at my feed. I mean, there's tons of videos that aren't through an interface and through a camera, and you just start with where you are. So if what you've got is a cell phone and the passion to put yourself out there and make yourself known, then start there. And then if you start feeling like, hey, I've been doing this and I've been putting stuff out there, and now I need to take it the next step and invest in this piece of equipment to communicate what I'm trying to say even better, then do that. And just believe in what you're doing, and do it because you want to be doing it. And I think that that's the stuff that we found people respond to the most is like, hey, it poured a bunch last night and we have a huge like pond essentially in our front yard. Like, let's all jump in that pond right now and take some stupid photo just because it seems fun. And that seemed like that was our best that day, was like, this is what we've got to offer. And, I think that people,
it goes back to the honesty, respect that honest of just like, hey, like here's 4 guys that really thought this would be funny. And like, just also thinking about like some of the like strategies maybe we employed like earlier on, even before we lived together, before even some of the members of the band we have are with us. There's like a level of just like scrappiness, I think that, every band deals with and goes through. And, we took a lot of opening slots that maybe didn't pay us very well. And we just kind of jumped on as many opportunities as possible, for better or for worse. But like Jake said, making yourself available and putting yourself out there. One like tangible thing that we did that we definitely learned from the Twiddle guys and Kevin Rondo is we'd show up to shows with like not even our own shows with like stacks of CDs. This being like 2013, 14, 15, when people maybe had CD players still left in their cars. And we just try and hit everybody on the way out with a free CD. And some people still to this day be like, I still have that CD in your car. It's like, well, I hope I can replace it with something that sounds a little better. But
yeah, now take this QR code.
or
we've moved past the CDs.
That's what we were doing at Resonance and at Peach and all through Fall Tours. We were handing out, now like download cards, but that goes a long way. And especially like when you keep seeing someone, like the best is like when you go to hand someone the CD and they go, oh, I got it from you like at the last show. The shameless self promo, especially in person, goes a really long way.
It's a weird thing when you're trying to be successful in music. It's like, obviously you want people to like that song, or you want people to like this jam or that t-shirt that you put out or whatever. But you really do need to like it, because I think that people can tell. Like, I think it was John Mayer, somebody said, like, I don't want to see somebody live and be like, oh, they're not doing it for me, the audience member that's here. They're doing it for the likes afterwards, and somebody not truly being present in their own moment because they're worried about what the outcome is going to be afterwards. And so I think just anytime you put things out, just so long as you're cool with it and you feel like you had fun making it, or you feel like it's true to whatever is going on in your life right then that seems like a pretty good thing to put out to people.
I love it. All right, everyone, we got a special guest on the Weird Music Podcast, Kel from Live for Live Music. Long story short, he's got some questions for the Eggy boys.
I figured I'd start it off with maybe the hardest hitting question, which is how do you take your eggs?
Over easy.
Same.
I'm over easy unless I'm going Benedict.
Okay. Maybe a side of pita bread, some cucumbers, tomatoes.
You know it.
So long as your dad is bringing the hummus.
No, I do actually have some serious questions there, but that has been, at the back of my mind since I've known you. I think like a lot of us, we've been following this tour with Spafford that just wrapped up, and like I thought it was pretty unique that, you know, you guys were opening for Spafford and you didn't repeat a song all tour. Did it feel like risky to like spread your material out so much? Like when you're hitting all these markets with like new fans, maybe people that haven't heard you or heard of you before?
I wouldn't say risky. I think it's definitely a risk. And I think that there's times that there was the payout, and then other times where we were like, well, that was the one time we're going to do that one, and not going to get the opportunity right now in this tour to make up for that one. But I think for us, it was kind of like after the first week, and we were starting to get a feel for the pace of what the tour was like, you know, driving to the venue, loading in all this stuff, kind of hustling into a 45-minute set, and then packing it all up and making our way, sometimes 8-12 hour drives to the next spot. It was kind of like easy to see how things were going to end up in just like a routine, just day to day, just being on tour and doing that thing. And I think that it just kind of kept us interested throughout the whole process of, let's pick the songs today, whatever we're going to do, and just got us to care.
We had kind of debated before the tour, even like if it made sense, like just to take an example, like our song Golden Gate Dancer it's like our top played on Spotify. It seems to be the one that like most people know. It's a dance song, gets everyone going every time. We're like, maybe like we do the kind of thing where like we're playing like maybe the same 40 songs, and we'll just kind of adjust the set lists like week after week. And like, because we want to make sure we're just giving people our best. We've only got 45 minutes. Like, how do we pack it in? And we thought about it, but I don't think anyone was very like much pushing for that one. That was almost like a cop out.
Maybe doing more and more of these tours, we'll start to get a good idea of like, people really respond to this one or really respond to this one. But it's hard. It felt hard for us to make that decision of like, which is the one that like night after night, like this is the thing that we're trying to push, and this is the thing that we want people to respond to, when we feel like all of our music has the potential to impact somebody. So we kind of let it be more of like, hey, we're just going to play all of it and kind of see how people respond.
What Jake was saying with the pace of the tour, you know, we didn't play more than 4 songs a night. And that was just to give ourselves that breathing room. We're going to improvise, we're going to jam. So even at 10 minutes, quote unquote, 10 minutes a song, sometimes the song's 8 minutes long, and, you know, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you feel rushed at all.
On the 5-week run, or the 20 or 21 shows that we went on, just to give ourselves kind of like the breathing room, we went into the tour basically saying, rather than viewing each individual show as like the full Eggy experience, like let's just view this 20 dates as like one show. So we don't feel like we're cramming stuff. Let's just view like over this period of time, like we will have said a lot, if not all of the things that we currently have to say.
Yeah. And it kept us very interested. And it also kind of forced us to do some things like covers, for example. We went and played in Detroit. And I remember coming downstairs from the elevator, and I saw Jake in the lobby. He's learning Detroit Rock City by Kiss. It's like, we're doing this tonight, you know? So on the way to the gig, as far as like our covers go, we're like, man, I don't want to play Southern Cross again. Like, let's do something else. Like, what else can we get for you? What songs can we bring in the fold that we haven't done? And, you know, so it ended up getting us to do things like, you know, Detroit Rock City or Alex singing Kiss from a Rose. Cause it's just like,
Or Tom
Cornwalker, you know, like,
Jake, I know like over the past, I don't know, 18 months or so, you've been learning pedal steel. What is it about like learning an instrument that like kind of, it's like, it feels fulfilling, but I just have never been able to put my finger on like what it is. Like, is it just a challenge?
I think what's most fulfilling about it is being able to see growth in a tangible way, especially at the beginning. I think that so much in life is like incremental growth, and a lot of it's subtle, and there's a lot of looking back and realizing, oh wow, like seeing myself back then or thinking about this thing, I've grown a lot since then. But in the beginning, it's so easy to see, like, I've never been able to play that before, and now I'm playing that. You start to have more of a respect for the process of things where, maybe I was trying to learn it fast and it wasn't coming together, and I finally slowed it down and I took the time, and it took me 5 hours, it took me 6 hours, it took me 2 weeks, but now I'm doing it. And so not only do you teach yourself this new skill that you couldn't do, but you also teach yourself like respect for the process, which I think what was so exciting about learning pedal steel was, for me, kind of realizing all those things again, where it's like, okay, I'm 27 years old. I've been playing guitar since I was 8. Now I'm trying to learn this song. It should come easy. It should come quickly. I should be able to kind of get this ready for the gig where, oh, this is a cover. Let's do it as soon as possible or whatever. And being able to now sit at this instrument that has very, has way less connection to guitar than I thought it did. And I'm sitting at this thing struggling and being like, okay, this is the beginning again. Like this is where it might not come that quickly. And if it comes quickly, at what cost? Like, is your technique bad? Like, are you rushing yourself to try and get this thing sounding like you can do it? But, what are you losing in the process of doing that? And it's just been so fun starting over again and taking things slowly and not really worrying about how quickly it all comes together and just enjoying the process. It's just so cool. And I think that that's like a feeling that I've always been drawn to and have always chased. And it's why I kind of picked music in the first place. Is it's something that you can see yourself grow, but you never really see that final form. The way that I am, whether it's playing music or the band, any milestone, you want to take the time to give yourself the respect of like, hey, you did this, like, congrats to you for taking the time and putting yourself into it. But almost as quick as you can give yourself the credit for that, you're already looking down the line of what that next thing is. And that feeling might not be for everybody. Like some people really crave the feeling of like arriving, and I crave the feeling of like of looking out and seeing what the next thing is. Throughout playing music, I've dabbled in piano and drums and obviously guitar and stuff like that. And pedal steel has just been the coolest thing that I've been hoping to find more and more ways to bring it out. It's honestly such a demanding instrument. I haven't played it now in like 2 months. We just got home 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm gonna set that up and I have no idea what that's gonna feel like, but I'm excited to find out. And
well, it's funny. I think your hands are gonna do everything they need to do. It's gonna be your legs that rock you.
yeah, it's like such weird, like I'm gonna be like, oh, my ankle's not strong enough. It's just such like a weird thing to say, but it's the truth. As people, we all fall into habits. We all fall into feeling comfortable and wanting to lean on the things that you think that you do best. And I think that a lot of the things that you do best, you forget that there was a time where it didn't come so easy and you needed to work hard at it. And, being somebody that started playing music when I was 8, I mean, I remember times of my dad being like, if you're going to cry trying to learn Stairway to Heaven because your fingers hurt, take it easy. Like, don't cry. And being like, getting all frustrated. He's like, I'm going to just leave it to you to figure out on your own right now. To get to that level of frustration when you're younger is like, oh, I was 8 years old. Like, I cried about everything or whatever. And now being like, like you get so used to doing the things that you do that you disregard how much of yourself it took to doing that.
With any skill, I mean, you liken pedal steel to any skill that you're trying to learn. There like always comes this time where, and it's happened to me a bunch of times playing guitar, it's like you hit like a wall where it's like, damn, like I've been practicing every day for the last 2 weeks, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting any better. Do you guys ever experience that? And like, if so, do you have any like tricks to like pull you out of that?
Definitely. I mean, I think that's something that everyone is kind of bound to experience at some point. perhaps multiple times. And I think that that's a good sort of thing to experience, because that's when you stop and you say, what else? When you're so caught up and invested in learning, and all these things are coming new to you and you're getting it, it's easy to get wrapped up in that, and then you're not really thinking of like what's next. And so to kind of experience the plateau is almost just like an opportunity. It's just putting everything on pause to check in and be like, okay, like maybe you were listening to this and inspired by that when you first started this, and now that you've reached this plateau, maybe you're listening to some other stuff, or maybe you have some new goals, or but I think a lot of it is trying to lean on what's feeling good and what's inspiring you. So for me, I feel fortunate to have this band that I'm playing in with people that inspire me as people and as musicians. And if my well has run dry as far as the things that I can pull out to motivate me, there's always the water from what they have to offer, and getting inside what they do can pull me out of what I'm thinking about, and give me the opportunity to get going again. If you want to do something for your whole life, it's not going to be consistent growth the entire time. And I think that how you manage how you feel in those moments where it feels like it all stops is actually what allows you to sustain and see the longevity in it all, is not getting discouraged and saying like, this is just the consequence of caring and, wanting more for myself. And it's totally fine to get stuck. Let me get out of myself for a bit, and maybe let me even get out of music for a bit, and let me go play basketball for a week and pull from that influence. Or everything comes back to everything.
It's a funny thing with practice, because you practice to make it sound good, but like as soon as it sounds good, you have to stop practicing it. Like once you've got it, and that's a lot of the times that I've felt stuck is because maybe I got something, and then I just keep going back to the same thing. And I wonder why when I'm playing, I'm not coming up with any new ideas. I've been doing all this playing and practicing. It's like, well, you got good at this technique. And like now the thing you need to do is find the thing you suck at again and build that back up. And like, that's not always a fun thing to want to realize and do. But it's like, I love how I played these solos, but my left hand was pretty bad, or something on the keyboard. It's like, well, the thing I probably need to work on, whatever my brain thinks my right hand should do, see what my left hand can do. The thing I probably need to do is sit down and sit on my right hand and just work with my left hand, excuse me, for a while, or I'm going to get frustrated as to why my solo wasn't any better, or why my ideas weren't more interesting, when maybe I'm neglecting half of my abilities, just because I know when I try and do it, it's going to be wonky and it might not sound as good at first. And, even in a band full of musicians that are very encouraging, like I don't want to play something that's like, dude, what are you doing? Like no one ever says this to anyone ever, like, dude, you're trying something new, but like it's so easy to, psych yourself out of that. So it's like, when you plateaued, it's like, because you've reached the top of that thing, and now it's time to just keep raising different, if you've got the corn crop growing well, it's time to raise your soy. We had a really great show in Minneapolis. It was like the second night of tour. And there's actually a video from that show. So if you're at home, check it out. But I remember after that show, it was everyone felt pretty good about it. And you said to me, you're like, loved everything you were doing. You were holding it down, whatever. I'd love to hear some more sounds. Like, what else you got in there? Like, hit that pedal. What else is in there? And like, maybe even a past me would have been like, a little more defensive about it, because it's like a very personal thing. Like, this is my sound. This is what I'm, up here doing. But like, it was probably like the best thing anyone could have told me that early on in the tour, because like the next night, I exaggerated it the other way. And like, I tried to use different sounds all the time, and I tried to hit my pedals all like almost in places where I wouldn't ever think to do it. And the next night was even better. I thought, in Madison, Wisconsin. And it's like, then throughout the rest of the, the month, it was just like, I felt not permission, but I felt like the freedom to fuck up. Cause it was like, hey, I'm going for something new here. Like, I'm trying to make sounds I've never made before. I also don't even have that much time to test these out beforehand. So I'm just going to try it out here live. And it worked out a lot of the time. So I just think that that's like such a crucial thing, is just like, we talk about it all the time as a band. It's like, especially right now, like coming home from this tour, being like, things are really good right now. Like, we have all this steam and all this momentum. This is probably the best time to like assess what we aren't doing well, because there is so much good happening right now. Like, to look at tour and say, in what ways can we make the next tour better, with the full knowledge that we felt like we crushed this tour. And, it's like, so when the show is good, it's almost the best time to be like, well, I could have also done this, that, and the other thing. Doesn't take away from the fact that this was a great show. Yeah. But, like, I mean, it's, we always keep going back to this like Steve Jobs quote, where he was like talking at one of these Apple conventions in the 90s and basically saying like, we're going to put out the best possible product we feel we have at the time. And we'll let basically our users decide, what things aren't working, so that when it's this time next year, we're trying to solve those problems, and we welcome the mistakes and, and embrace our shortcomings and our downfalls, because ultimately that's how you learn to make a better, how to write a better song, how to have a better jam, how to interact better with one another.
You guys talked about a lot about how like you can kind of push each other to get better. And I mean, it seems like you guys absolutely like crushed the quarantine game. I mean, the shows from the Egg Crate, it was really cool to watch that. And like, I don't know, I'm just interested in like the dynamic of you guys living together and like what that has meant for your growth.
Well, I think that when we first moved in together, it made most sense, being an up and coming band, kind of all getting in the same place together. And Alex was in Boston. Mike joined the band a little bit later on. Alex joined after him. There was all these different starting points. So we were like, let's try and find a common ground, like the same place to grow out of. And so that was kind of our initial vision of moving all in together, was let's create that starting line that we can all, if we move out of here, that be either because we did all the things that we wanted to do or because we didn't. Certainly has felt like a lot at different points in times. And I remember we went on tour with Spafford before quarantine and all that sort of stuff. And I remember at the end of the 8 shows, Brian was like, hey, like, you guys need anything, like music related, life, whatever, give me a call. And we were like, somehow it came up like that we all lived together, and he was like, oh, you guys all live together? Don't call me. Like, call.
And so many times people were like, you guys living together? Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Just, we've been friends for a long time and everything like that, but giving ourselves this opportunity to fully see ourselves and see what people, how they spend their time and what your own goals are and hopes and dreams, and your good moments and your bad moments, and showing your teeth and showing your smile and all these different things. It's like, okay, well, if anything's going to come out, it's going to come out through this. There's not going to be that, 5 years from now, like, it just never felt like the right time because we were on the road and we were playing these shows and we were in the studio and never got to talk to you about this. It's like, hey, we live together. We got all the time in the world. And, and sometimes, just those inner workings as just people had taken the precedent, where there's, people would be like, especially during quarantine, oh, you guys are together, you guys must be playing together so much. And it's like, actually, we've been talking about a lot. We've been trying to digest all of this and all process this. And while we have this common goal together, we're all individuals kind of going through this thing and doing what we want to do. It's like you're married to 3 different dudes, and and you're married to the person that they want to be married to, and you're married to the things that they did before you and the things that they, you know, still want to do even now that they have this going on. And you're married to their successes and you're married to their failures, knowing that the people that you're working with like have your best interest in mind and care about you and know what you're going through and want the best for you. I think that it's only going to make the music better, and it's only going to at least make it more real. It was really intense being in quarantine together, and you know, really appreciate you saying all those things about what we were able to kind of do during that time. We feel lucky to have been together and doing all those streams, and couldn't thank people enough for listening. And you know, so many people even throughout this last tour coming up to us, hey, like, your music meant a lot to me during quarantine. Like, I found you guys during that time, and you helped me through that difficult time. And you know, the feeling is completely mutual.
Man,
Pretty
I
solid.
love these questions, Kel. Anyone who listened this far, you know, Eggy fans, Dani and Jake, I want to ask you one final question. Like, if you had one message you would like to like leave with them directly to your fans, what would that be?
Just thank you. Really, I would just have to give gratitude. You know, from especially when we talk about pandemic and quarantine. Thanks to everyone that was listening to us through those times and giving us a source of inspiration when it was really hard to find. And thank you for continuing to fuel our fire. It was incredible to meet so many people across the country that, you know, have known who I was, but I finally got to connect with them because they've been listening to us. And, you know, just know that every little micro interaction that we had at a merch table, or just a quick passing by with a kind word, like, is the stuff that fuels us, and we're motivated by it. And we can't thank everyone enough that's been supporting us thus far. And, you know, we hope will continue to support us as we keep the Eggy train rolling.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can't do it without the fans.
Yeah, and we're always here for our fans. So if anybody ever wants to talk about music or life or any of these things, you know, feel free to hit us up. We don't know what we're talking about, but we're down to figure it out together for sure.
I love it. Eggy, man. So it's at Eggy Music, all that online, Eggy on Spotify. You guys have a Patreon, right?
We have a Patreon. Yep. That's Eggy Music as well, where we do, there's some exclusive content out there, like some live videos. There's a cool rig rundown we put up recently of Jake's rig. We always also do like cool pre-sales, free downloads, all that kind of stuff for the low price of $5 a month, or that one coffee from Starbucks. I know, because I got it today.
Kel, man. So Kel, Live for Live Music. We're gonna have him on in the future. Gonna interview him. But Kel, thank you for coming on, man. Anything you want to say to kind of take us home here?
I'll leave you with, like, I don't know if you guys are out there listening, like, you're not alone. Like, if anything is troubling you, or like Dani said, like, or Jake said, you know, you can always reach out. Same to me. I mean, I know if you know me online, if you've been, you know, for friends on the Facebook, or even if we're not, you know, never hesitate to reach out. Like, it's been kind of like a weird 18 months for all of us music fans, and it feels good for stuff to get going again. And, you know, like I said, you're not alone. And
Eggy, shitty gaming, right, Kel, with a C?
That's right. CHSCHIDDY.
There it is.
Appreciate that
Eggy
plug,
gaming.
Cam.
It's the Weird Music Podcast. Much love, y'all.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
If you made it this far, thank you for listening, and a big thank you to our sponsors, Hemp Relief CBD, SEM Tickets, Devil Wind Brewing, and Artillery Productions. We got links in the description below. Go check out all the awesome stuff they've got going on, and much love, everyone.
Tom is spending time in the cornfields. Little Tom is spending little time in the cornfields. Tom and little Tom are spending time in the cornfields.